Welcome to the video lecture series Basic Electronics, paper code EC10 on EC201. Myself, Mrs. Mopali Roy, Assistant Professor, EC Department, Narula Institute of Technology. This is my lecture 27. After the previous lecture, we are discussing about the basic electronics semiconductor devices. Okay, so semiconductor devices means first of all, we are discussing about the various types of material. In using these various types of material, what we can make the metal, semiconductor and insulator. Then in electronics, we know that is the most important component is the semiconductor. So using this semiconductor, we can make the diode. We know about various types of diode. What is that? We know that the PN junction diode. We know about the LED, light emitting diode, Zener diode. These diode we know. After that, we know various topic, that is the diode circuit, half wave, full wave rectifier, that is a rectifier, clipper, clamper, the application of this one. Then we learn about the transistor, that is BJT, bipolar junction transistor, and field effect transistor, FET. So all about these, how it is working. Today we are discussing about the new module, new topic, totally different from this previous one. That is, we are starting about the amplifier one. So first of all, in this lecture, in lecture 27, we start with the feedback amplifier. In our syllabus, there are two types of amplifiers. One is feedback amplifier, another is operational amplifier. From this, we are introducing another module, that is the amplification, how amplifier works. So let's start with amplifier. First of all, from the name, feedback and amplifier. Suppose from the name, it have two different words. One is the feedback one, another is the amplifier one. So first, consider the first word, that is the feedback. Think about the word feedback. What is feedback? Actually, when we are using this word feedback, where we can use it? Suppose we went as we know that we all like to take some food. So take an example of food. We went a restaurant. When we went a restaurant, in that time, after taking the food, there have a feedback form. Or after going to pandal hopping, nowadays it's a new trend that after going to pandal hopping, as the puja is in front, so we can say that in the time of puja, when we went to pandal hopping, in that time there have a list that how you enjoy the pandal. Or when you are projecting anything, you are making a project, in that time you are making a feedback form, that how the audience looks like your project. So that means feedback means taking some output to the input. That means I am the input or you are the input. You are making a project, so your output is the project, input is you. After taking the feedback of the audience, whoever the taking the service of the output, after taking the service of the output, whoever giving any comments, that is the feedback. Okay, so after when we are going to a restaurant, after taking the food, when we are giving the feedback, that suppose you are taking a very good quality food, but what happened, that you have to wait a long time. So in feedback form, what you write? You have to write that the food quality is very good, the service is very good, but you have to wait till more. So when someone taking these feedback of use, in that time he or she or whatever, that means the system takes the feedback. So system try to overcome this one. Suppose the pandal hopping, After the panel hopping, you are right, the panel is very good, the Pratima is also very good, but the entrance is very narrow entrance. So for this narrow entrance, it's very difficult to go in. So it's take a long time. So you make a comment that it's perfect or very good for every part, but there have a small disadvantage, that is a very narrow entrance. If it is wider, then it is very much what acceptable, or it's enjoyable to us, that we have to wait few times less. After taking, suppose you are displaying any project, after seeing this one, after seeing this project display, anyone commented that this is a very innovative project, this one is very good to see. You are doing, suppose you are doing a project with the waste material, so this is the very innovative one. Now, after seeing that, there have some small negativity there. That means feedback is always acceptable to the system to improvement of the next output. That means it is too much acceptable to the system. Next word is the amplifier. What is amplifier? Think about the amplifier. Where you know that, from where you learned this one? In radio, in TV, you have an amplifier. In microphone, you have an amplifier. Suppose when I am talking in front of you, if I am in the class, suppose you have 60 people. What is my volume? That is very much audible to these 60 people. But if the class is not 60, suppose the class is along with 160, then it is not possible for my voice to reach to these 160 people. It is acceptable or reachable to these 60 people, but it's not reachable to 160 people. Then what we have to do? We have to amplify this one. So in that time, the voice of mine is not capable to amplify this way. So in that time, externally a amplifier circuit, that means who can amplify, means increase or decrease the width or the amplitude of the signal or amplitude of the input. So who can make the difference of the amplitude of the signal? Suppose in front of me there are 6 people. So if there is 6 people, or if I am in front of me there are 60 people, so when I am in front of the 6 people, what is my volume? If I am in front of 60 people, that is not the same. When it is 160, this is not possible to reach my voice. So in that time, external amplifier is needed. Otherwise, if 6, then what is my volume? If 60, then I can amplify my tone and we can increase the amplitude of my volume. So whatever it is, we can amplitude in myself or externally electronic circuit in front of us. So that means this is the amplifier. So from these two names, that means feedback and amplifier, from these two, if it's come together, then what we can say, that after taking the feedback, when we are giving a feedback come to the input, and after getting this feedback, whatever the amplification happen in the amplifier, that is the basic concept of the feedback amplifier. Okay, so that is feedback amplifier. So let's start. What is feedback? If we come to now the main engineering process or the technical term with the feedback, so the process of combining a fraction of the output energy back to the input is known as feedback. So the process of the combining a fraction of the output energy, that means that from the output something goes back to the input known as feedback. Next one, what is amplifier? Which can be amplify the amplitude of the signal, whatever I say. Okay, so next one is feedback amplifier. So if a portion or the whole of the output signal of an amplifier is the feedback and superimposed on the input signal, the performance of the amplifier change significantly. The amplifier is then said to be a feedback amplifier. That means a portion or the whole the output. That means what is the feedback? The process of combining a fraction of the output energy. These output energy may be a portion or the whole output. If the total systems are bad, then you have to say that this total system is bad, you have to change this system. So that means the total output is come to the input and you have to amplify this one. So that means a portion or the whole of the output signal of an amplifier is feedback and superimposed on the input signal, the performance of the amplifier changes significantly. And this amplifier is then said the feedback amplifier. So with respect to this feedback, which amplification happen in the amplitude, that is called feedback amplifier. Okay, so the feedback amplifier can be defined as the amplifier which has the feedback path between output to input. That means this feedback comes to input from the output. So this feedback path in between the output to input. The feedback is very useful to reduce the noise and making the amplifier operation stable. That means if the system is unstable, if we don't know what is the negativity of myself, or if we know the what is the negativity of the system, then how we can improve this one. So to improve the system, it must have a feedback, need a feedback. So feedback is very useful to reduce the noise and making the amplifier operation stable. Depending upon whether the feedback signal aids or opposes the signal, there are two types of feedback used. First one is the positive feedback. Which one is that? Suppose we have a sine wave in the input. So if we have the positive feedback, then whatever the output, we are getting also a positive one. So in case of positive feedback, the input is also positive and the output is also positive. So the feedback, that means the feedback from the output is also positive for positive feedback. In case of the negative feedback, if we have the positive one, then what is our output? We are getting the negative output in the output side. So that is the basic difference between the positive one and the negative one. If input is positive, that means there have a phase change. In case of positive feedback, there is no phase change. In case of negative feedback, there are 180-degree phase change for the negative one. Okay, so first we are discussing about the positive feedback. So the feedback in which the feedback energy, that is either voltage or current, whatever it is in phase with the input signal and thus aids, it is called the positive feedback. What is the example of the previous one? Whatever we are having the phase, this is in the same phase. If it is in positive phase, we are getting the positive phase. So that means whatever it is, voltage or current, it's not changing any phases in case of positive feedback. So both the input signal and the feedback signal introduce the phase shifted of 180-degree, thus making a 360-degree resultant phase shift around the loop to be finally in phase with the input signal. So whatever the input signal, the feedback is also in the same phase. So though the positive feedback increase the gain of the amplifier. That means whatever the input we are getting, if the same input we are getting in that way, so whatever the gain means what? Output by input. Output by input is named as gain. So increase the gain of the amplifier, it has some disadvantages. That is the increasing the distortion and the instability. What is that? That means suppose I am also in that case also I am using a lively example. Suppose one of you are very good student and every day in the class you are responding to me. So what happened? When every day you are responding to me, every day I am giving the positive feedback to you. That means it also have the positivity that yes, you are positive and you are getting the positive feedback every day. But one time, if I'm always giving you the positivity, one day you think yes, that is the negativity of the positiveness. Yes, I am good, and whatever ma'am asks me, obviously every day I'm reach to her desired level. So that is the not the confidence, that is the overconfidence. If overconfidence come, in that time the distortion and instability come. So when I'm giving a feedback to you that okay, today is also you are giving a very good feedback, so you have to maintain your performance because you have to maintain for this performance throughout the semester or throughout the BTech years. That means the 4 year of the BTech. So that is the one negativity with the positive one. So if I am triggering you that yes, you are good, but you have to maintain this goodness with you along with you throughout these 4 years. So that is the negativity of the positive one, or that is the limitation of the positive one. Positive one have some limitation. When I am always be positive, then it becomes the instability or the distortion. So positivity with some condition always good. So positivity is that is you are good and you have to maintain these consistency with 4 years. So that is the limitations of the positiveness, and that is the disadvantages also. So positiveness always not that is the confidence. Positiveness makes the overconfidence also. So in case of any circuit also, if always we are giving the positive, in that time it cross its gain, it cross its limits, and we are getting a distorted output. So for this, positive feedback is also acceptable to us, but with some limitations. Okay, so suppose we have this positive feedback, whatever the input we are getting, in feedback also we are getting the positive one. So this is from the output with a feedback input. That means this is the feedback factor. With the feedback factor we are getting a output this side, and with this one with input, see the phase angle is the same. Whatever the phase of the input, the same phase we are getting the feedback also. So this is the blocks example for the positive feedback. So for an example, whatever I say, there I have another example. If some precious of you gives the positive feedback about something, you feel happy about yourself and you are getting full of energy and you feel more positive. But however, in electronics and control system, too much this price and positive feedback can increase the system gain for too much, which would be rise to the oscillatory circuit responses, and as it is increase the magnitude of the effective input signal. So for this is the positive feedback system could be the electronic amplifier based on the operational amplifier. When we are using the operational amplifier or the oscillator one, in that time positive feedback is needed with some limitation. What I mentioned, that positive feedback is also acceptable but with some limitations. Now we come to the negative feedback. What is the negative feedback? Obviously, this is the out of phase. That means whatever the phase of the input, we are getting out of phase with the negative one. So the feedback in which the feedback energy, that is either voltage or current, is out of phase with the input and thus opposes it, is called the negative feedback. So in a negative feedback, the amplifier introduces a phase shift of 180 degree into the circuit, while the feedback network is so designed that is produced no phase shift or zero phase shift. Thus, the resultant feedback voltage, that is VF, is 180 degree out of phase with the input signal Vin. So whatever the input is, we are getting 180 degree phase shifted. So the effect of the negative or generative feedback is reduce the gain, because whatever the gain of the previous one, if we are giving the feedback with the 180 degree phase shift, then what happened? It's negative effect. What happened? They reduce the gain. So when we are getting the reduced gain, that means the system is more stable, because if the output by input, that means that if gain is our target of gain is 1 always, that means the system is stable if output by input is equals to 1. So our target is this one. So if this negativity comes to then reduce the gain, then what happened? The system is become stable in that time. So because of the negative feedback produced stable circuit response, improve the stability and increases the operating bandwidth of a given system, the majority of all control and feedback system is degenerated, reduce the effect of the gain. So this is a blocks of the negative signal. See what happened there? We are giving the input, that is whatever the phase of this side, what we are getting? We are getting 180 degree phase shift for the feedback one. From the output, what we are getting? We are getting, that is a feedback amplification factor. So with this factor, whatever the feedback we are getting, that is 180 degree phase shift with the input one. So in that way, we are giving the negative feedback. So the advantages of negative feedback, when we are giving the negative feedback, why we are using the negative one? So though the gain of the negative feedback amplifier is reduced, there are many advantages of the negative feedback, such as the stability of gain is improved, because we in the previous slide we discussed that gain is always we want to get, that is the unity. That means the output by input, always we desire that the gain must be 1. So if the gain is reduced, that means we think that this is the stable system. So the reduction is distortion. If the stability of the gain is improved, then the distortion is also improved. Reduction of noise, if we give the negative one, so if the signal is reduced, so if there is any distortion or if there is any noise with this negativity of the feedback, this distortion and noise is also one by one. Whatever the advantages we are mentioning there, all these we are discussing in one by one. Okay, that means that the stability of gain, how the distortion happen, reduces, how noise is reduced, everything we are discussing. Increase of input impedance, decrease of the output impedance, increase of the range of uniform application, and it is become these advantages of negative feedback is frequently employed in the amplifier. So these are the advantages. Now we come to the block diagram of feedback amplifier. So suppose this is a block diagram of a feedback amplifier where we are giving, this is the input. See, this is the forward path. There is an open loop gain, that is the G. this is the output, that is we are giving the theta I is our input and theta 0 is our output there. So whatever we are getting, this is the feedback path, that is the H, the feedback factor we are mentioning here as H. So this is the feedback path. This is the, as it is the positive one or the negative one. So after getting this one, this is the error correction code. So this is the error correction path we are getting, and whatever theta 0 by theta I, theta 0 by theta I is equals to the gain, this one by 1 plus minus GH. So how we are getting this equation when we are discussing the how we are getting theta 0 by theta 1, in that time we are getting this one. Okay, so that is the block diagram of the feedback path amplifier, feedback amplifier. This is the open loop gain, this is the feedback gain. If this feedback is absent, then what we can say, this is the open path. That means we are giving the input, this is the open loop gain, whatever the output we are getting, that is the open path. This is the closed path. That means this is with the feedback, we can say this is the closed path. So the systems are two types. One is open loop system, another is closed loop system. Closed loop system means with feedback. Open loop system, that means the without feedback. So when we are calculating the gain without feedback, then whatever it is, G0 by theta 0 by theta 1 is equals to G, whatever the gain we are giving there. But when we are considering the closed loop system, then we have to calculate with the feedback factor along with the open loop one. So a feedback amplifier generally consists of two parts. There are the amplifier and the feedback circuit. That means this is the amplifier one and this is the feedback circuit. So the feedback circuit usually consists of the resistors. The gain of the amplifier is represented as A. That means this G is, suppose we are written as, this one is our A. So this G is denoted as A. And the gain of the amplifier ratio of the output voltage, that means this theta 0 is noted as V0, and the input voltage, this theta I is denoted as Vi. So the Vi is our, suppose if we are considering the voltage as input, so Vi is our input, V0 is our output. The open loop gain, that is the gain of the amplifier, is A, and the feedback network exact the voltage gain, that is Vf. Suppose whatever we are getting from this one, that is Vf, is with, if this H is mentioned there as beta, then this one is V, this one come with the V0. So Vf is equals to what we can say, beta with V0. So Vf is equals to, we can write beta into V0 from the output of V0 from the amplifier. So this Vf is goes to this circuit with the positive and negative. When it is the positive feedback, then come with positive. When it is the negative feedback, then come with the negative one. So this one is equals to, we can write it may be Vi minus Vf for the negative feedback, or this is maybe Vi plus Vf for positive feedback. Okay, so this is equals to what we can say, this is the error code. So this one we can denote it as, this theta E we can denote it as Vs there. Okay, so when we are considering this one, so the feedback voltage is added to the positive feedback and subtracted from the negative feedback from the signal Vs. So that is the Vs. So now what we can write, that Vi is equals to Vs minus Vf. So Vf is equals to what, beta V0, and Vi is equals to Vs minus Vf for the negative feedback. So this one is the negative, this one is for positive. So Vi is equals to Vs minus Vf, that is Vs plus beta V0, and Vi is equals to Vs minus Vf, that means Vs minus beta V0. Okay, so from the signal Vs, so if we consider Vs as the signal, then we can write this one. So this is this one, see, this is our V0, this is our V0, this is comes there V0, this is VF goes there, this is our VI. So from the input we are giving VI and we are now taking this is as VS. So if this is VS, so what we can write, VI minus VF. So VI minus VF for negative one, and if it is a positive one, then VI plus VF we can write if this is the VS. Okay, so this is a example of a voltage or as the voltage input, voltage output we are getting. So this is a feedback amplifier circuit. So hence from this one we can write that is a VS, that means this one, when this G is denoted as A and when this H is denoted as beta, then we can write that Vs minus beta V0 is into A, that is equals to V0. That means from this one we can write this one. Okay, from this one we can write this one. So from this we can write AVS, that means if we multiply this one, AVS minus A beta V0 is equals to V0, or AVS is equals to V0 into 1 plus A beta. So that is the equation for the amplification factor. Okay, so therefore we can write that V0 Vs is equals to A into 1 plus A beta. So therefore the quantity, that is beta is equals to Vf by V0 is called, that means this one beta is equals to Vf by V0, because we know Vf is equals to Vd by, sorry, V0 into beta. So beta is equals to what? Vf by V0. So let we consider that the negative feedback, for negative feedback the output voltage V0 must be equal to the input voltage, that is Vs minus beta V0. That means this one, Vs minus beta V0 for the negative one. And now the gain is what? The gain is A there. The gain is A there. So let AF is the overall gain. So if AS is the overall gain, then what we can write? That is the overall gain with the feedback of the amplifier. This is defined as the ratio of the output voltage V0 with which one? With Vs. So that is, we can write AF is equals to output voltage by input signal voltage, that is V0 by Vs. So from this above two equation, what we can understand, that is the equation of the gain of the feedback amplifier with the negative feedback is given by AF is equals to A by 1 plus A beta. So AF is equals to A by 1 plus A beta, that is A by 1 plus A beta. That is the equation for AF. So the equation from the gain feedback amplifier for positive feedback, what we are getting, this one is equals to what we can write, this is by, so A by 1 minus A beta. So that is the equation for this one. So this is the standard equation to calculate the gain feedback amplifier. So from this what we can say, the loop gain is the negative for any system. So AV is equals to what we can write, the AV equals to, we can write, that is G equals to, suppose we let the G, A is equals to G and beta is equals to 8, then what we can write, G is equals to AV is equals to G by 1 plus GH, and for the positive feedback we can write AV is equals to G by 1 minus GH. So that is the feedback amplifier equation. So if we are replacing A with G, then that is the equation. If we are considering A and beta, then that is the equation. So this is for the negative feedback amplifier and this is for the positive feedback amplifier. Okay, so up to this is the lecture. That means the first one, when we are calculating the gain of the with the input output, that is the gain of the feedback amplifier for positive feedback and the negative feedback. And we know about what is feedback, what is feedback amplifier, positive feedback, negative feedback, advantages of feedback, all these. So this is the references from where you can know more about this one. And this is the end of the lecture. So thank you for listening. This is my mail ID and WhatsApp number. Feel free to contact me if you have any types of query.